Welcome back to CBS News 24/7. Okay, so we are watching the legal blowback of President Donald Trump's executive orders and, of course, the buyout offer made to federal employees. So we go into a new week after a federal judge kind of put a foot in the door, pausing the president's buyout plans. A lot to unpack here, so let's go live to CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson, my fellow yogi here, doing some deep breathing on a Monday to try to break all of this down. So we're going to talk first about the federal buyout and the challenges that Elon Musk is having in the courts to access a lot of personal records and the legality of all of that. But first of all, let's kind of break this down. The legality of this. You see the executive orders, then you see the court challenges. Is this just sort of the meal that we're going to be eating every Monday throughout this entire presidency?
Well, that depends on how many executive actions the Trump administration wants to take. But it's a really important question because I think what we've seen in the past is presidents have maybe pushed the boundaries of executive authority. I mean, we can think of President Biden trying to cancel student loan debt by an executive action. The Supreme Court said no. We can think about President Obama and DACA and DAPA, those programs talking about deportation. But we've never seen anything near the depth and breadth of these executive orders. They go further, in my view, than other executive actions have, and there just are simply so many more of them. So what we're seeing right now is a fairly predictable pattern. A part of the federal government takes an action. There are very good arguments that that action oversteps what is allowed by the Constitution, and people challenge that action. And now federal judges are saying yes, no, and maybe. And that's essentially what we're living through at this very moment.
And some have said that this is part of the Trump strategy to test what you can do. But also a question I have, Jessica, is there a strategy relative to the volume? Because if you just flood with executive orders and volume, is there sort of a strategy to be anticipated here of fatigue?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I don't think that this is an accident. I mean, we've both heard this phrase so many times, but the flood the zone phrase. So I think certainly people who are bringing legal challenges can keep up, but it costs time, it costs resources, and for different nonprofits and different individuals and groups who would bring these challenges, they're having to pick and choose a little bit. Not to mention the fact that, Reed, of course, it's difficult for all of us to keep up and to try and educate the public on exactly what is happening, because there are just, the volume is so intense. And I think certainly this is part of a concerted legal strategy, potentially of, shock and awe. And what happens next, of course, will be a big question as to whether or not the Trump administration, as J.D. Vance is potentially floating, would ever get to the point where they would ignore a federal order by a federal judge.
All right, so let's do our due diligence and let's just sort of break these things down to keep the public informed. First of all, relative to those court challenges, let's talk about the thousands of federal workers. They're in limbo today. We know that the deadline is about to approach, that judge's order and the deadline. What are the legal arguments here, and do you see any future in a pause?
There could be a future pause. So the legal arguments we have here are that the Trump administration did not go about trying to implement the so-called buyout program the right way. That's the Administrative Procedures Act argument. Two, that they didn't actually have the power to implement this at all. That's the argument that the Office of Personnel Management isn't the right government agency to try and make this offer. And then three, the argument is that this buyout actually violates something called the Anti-Deficiency Act, which means Congress said, here's money for X purpose. And now the Trump administration, through the Office of Personnel Management, is trying to say, actually, the money that was allocated to these federal workers, it doesn't need to be used for them to actually work. So those are the live arguments. Could a judge say, I need more time, we're again pausing the deadline? Absolutely.
Let's talk about Elon Musk. There are a couple of realities here. Number one, the reality is we are starting to see the headlines come up where he's uncovering things like the fact that it costs more to print a penny than it is to actually have a penny, right? The value difference is off. And so we're starting to see those headlines of his findings. However, at the same time, the reality is that he's operating largely in the dark. We don't have a lot of disclosure about even the granular things of who his staff members are, what they're doing, what kind of power. And in the midst of that, a legal challenge that stopped Elon Musk from being able to access bank records, social security numbers of millions of Americans. Where do you see that legal battle going today?
So that battle obviously is continuing. I think you laid this out really clearly. And the question really is this DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. First of all, what exactly is it? It's not a true department in the government. It's kind of this new standalone organization or agency that is operating at President Trump's direction. Now, the Secretary of the Treasury has said, come look at these documents. But I think legally speaking, there are a couple of questions. Is there truly the authorization to look at the amount of information they're looking at, number one? Number two, are there any sort of statutes dealing with privacy and confidentiality? And three, are there any statutes dealing with particularly sensitive information, like even national security information? And so we're really looking at that congressional authorization. And then are you looking at things that you really are not allowed to look at? Again, we don't have a great blueprint because we've never seen anything like this before, but I think those are the live legal arguments here.
Right, and you raised the points about privacy and also about the issue of national security. We know that President Trump has said in the coming days, maybe even in the coming hours, Elon Musk is now going to be directed to go into the Department of Education, into the military records. Do you anticipate this week seeing any legal challenges relative to Elon Musk's access where our kids are concerned, our educational system, our military?
Yes, yes, and yes. So every time we have a situation where Elon Musk and DOGE are granted access to a new department's information, I think we're going to see what will become a pattern play out. This is a really important question. And the pattern is basically, when will the lawsuit come? And I think the answer is soon. And what will it be based on? And it will be based on what looks like a similar flavor to what we just talked about. You don't really have the authorization for the access to this information, and there are laws that would prevent you from being able to access this information. So yes, with every new step, with every new action that DOGE takes, I think that there could be legal challenges.
And Jessica, I guess tapping into your brilliant legal mind, what you're saying here when we really boil it down is it is not as simple as paper straw or plastic straw.
You said it better than I could.
Jessica Levinson, thank you so much.